The views expressed in this podcast are that of ours alone. Any opposing opinions on our behalf are not to discredit or belittle the listener's opinion, but only to pose another perspective or point of view, respectively. What's happening? No need to adjust your devices. You are now podcasting with the best parameters podcast, episode 7. And I'm your host, Stilo GQ.
And I'm your host, Black Dev. Tonight, joining us for the show, we have Joseph Yamine. You might know this guy from a festival that he started, MagFest, Music and Gaming Festival. He started a long time ago, and he's now known for his traveling site. Travels around the world, been around the world, and yeah. This is that guy. This is that guy right now, and so episode 7, we got Joe joining us, and
And don't forget to look them up on Facebook.
yeah. And what are we talking about tonight, Stilo?
Today's topic is: are guns an American obsession or necessity? Guns, ladies and gentlemen. Again, are they an obsession or necessity? Joe, so what's your take on that? And also, Joe's located in Roanoke, Virginia at this time. So, Joe, what do you think?
Well, I guess it's a pardon me. It's more than a conversation you sum up in a couple of sentences, but I mean there's a certain necessity for if you live in a rural area, you need them for snakes, for scorpions, for certain field work. Sometimes you need a small weapon in your home for protection. Um, but I've been to 45 countries at this point. Well, it would be 45 Tuesday. Um, and at a certain point you do cross a line from necessity into obsession, and it's kind of you listen to me, I'm almost afraid to have the conversation, because here in America we can't have that conversation. The minute I say, you know what, maybe it has crossed over into obsession and propaganda, is I'm worried about a million people screaming at me waving their guns.
True.
So that I mean that's that says it right there. But yeah,
Yeah.
there is a necessity. Look, I've been to 45 countries, and I'm pretty sure you can get guns in almost all 45 of them. But there's a difference of how many you can get, the type you can get, how long you have to wait to get them. Who is considered mentally fit to own one and who is not, and those are all complex parts of the conversation that
So,
we're not
Joe,
allowed to have. That we're not allowed to have in this country.
right. So, Joe, let me ask you this. It's obvious that you're well versed in travel and everything. In the countries that you've been in, have you noticed a similarity with their need to have guns the way you see it in America? Have you noticed any of that within any of your travels?
Um, yeah, and it does differ region to region, country to country. Um, you got, I'll tell you what, this is the only country where, you know, well, no, I mean, okay, like, and gun supporters love to bring up the Switzerland example. Everybody in Switzerland is by law required to have a gun in their household. But with the part they failed to mention is that, you know, they are required to be in the military. Everyone spends time in the military, receives proper training
Mm-hmm.
in the use and the heavy responsibility of having, that's part of the big problem in this country, is that people in this country look at them as toys, or it's a testosterone enhancer. Look at my giant gun.
Mm-hmm.
In other countries they really view them as that's a serious thing you've got in your hands. That's not a toy for the shooting range. That's something that holds the life and death of another human being in it if you're not careful. Um, they have to the ammunition's kept secure, police like stations, so they don't have the ammunition at home. They have to request it. They have to check it out and
Mm.
basically track every bullet they fire when they return the leftover ammunition. I mean, you know,
Wow.
or yeah, I mean, they always forget to mention those parts. They just want to say, "Oh, everybody in Switzerland has a gun."
I didn't
It's like,
know.
whenever they,
Wow, I
yeah,
didn't know. I didn't know that
yeah.
part.
In Dubai, and I lived in Dubai for a year and a half. I taught English there, and I talked to my students, and they said, "Yes, Mister, we can get guns here," but generally, the only people who the government will issue guns to are the camel farmers living out in the desert because they need them for rattlesnakes. So you've got a whole like family household, and there's one rifle between the whole household, or a shotgun,
Hmm.
and they're using it for farm for farm use. So I'll tell you one thing. I've only ever been to one country that's got shooting ranges every 10 minutes you go.
Where's that?
Here.
Oh, oh,
you know,
oh.
um, it's, um,
So
yeah.
so bringing up what you said about Switzerland and how a lot of them, the majority of them, if not all of them, have some form of military training, which is why they are able to carry firearms. Why, which is why everyone is required to carry a firearm. So, would you agree that in America we should our restrictions should be a little bit more tighter to where we would be more so res- restricting it to people that are qualified to have them, more restrictive to people who are
Um,
qualified.
I don't know if restrictive is the right word for it, because that's a loaded. The minute you say that, oh my God, he's going to take away our guns. That's
Oh yeah.
but but here's the thing: is officially the NRA, the official position of the, and boy, I could talk to you forever about the NRA. By the way, the guy, the president, the head of the NRA, Wayne LaPierre. He grew up here in Roanoke. He
Oh
went to
wow.
Patrick. He went to Patrick Henry High School. He was. You ever go down to Vic Thomas Memorial Park? Um, he was Vic Thomas's vice delegate to the Virginia House of Delegates. I still hang out. Vic's got one brother in Roanoke still. He's about 85 years old, but I still catch up with him once in a while. Real nice guy.
Wow.
But yeah. Um, the NRA does officially on paper, they support background checks to screen people that are not what's the term, mentally capable of owning a gun. So they officially, they do support checks on that. But when's the last time they actually supported any sort of legislation that actually tried to do that?
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
so that's but then the NRA, they're much more concerned with gun sales and gun profits than they are the actual people owning and using the guns. The NRA's, it's a money machine. What are you going to do?
Huh.
Um, well, it's I got a lot of friends that are into guns that do not care for the NRA, but that's um, but your question was
Yes.
your question was about Switzerland. I think a lot of it is, it's an educational issue that over there, like, and I said it before, they you get to some of these countries, especially Europe, where there's people still alive who can remember what it was like to have the entire continent ravaged by war. We don't have that experience in this country. The last time people could remember that was in the 1860s,
Hmm.
and there's no one left alive from
Right.
then. But yeah, they view guns as you've got a gun, you've got a serious thing in your hands. In this country, I could tell you a story about this GOP party chairman down in Florida I chatted with once, who tried to tell me, "Oh, guns, they're like toys. We like to swing them around like baseball bats. That's
Mm.
part
Wow.
of our freedoms in this country." And I really should have been a little bit more polite with that guy, but man, I unloaded on him for saying that. And but that really does typify. I think that
The
typifies a lot of
American.
the gun problem.
Dude, that's
Yeah,
dangerous. That's a dangerous statement, man, when you think about it.
So
yeah.
That's scary.
somebody commented on the Facebook status, posted about the topic that the Constitution is outdated
Hmm.
and that the right to bear arms, at that time period where it was written, that like because uh you know people were they that was for the people were in the militia and stuff like that, and I mean, really thinking about it, I didn't look into it, but when you really think about at that time period of when the Constitution was written, and like you said, in rural areas and stuff like that, like it was a necessity to have a gun, cause but we're not. I mean, like in an urban area, like you're not hunting anything. I don't
Right.
know. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Like
that's right.
just for starters, like you're not. So be beyond that, like and then of course there were quite a few people who said that it's an obsession in America, and then there was a few that said, we have a right and we gotta protect our family. There's also people that believe that the government,
Yeah.
if the government takes the guns away, then the government can control us because we don't have guns.
If the U.S. government sends a SWAT team down Fifth Avenue, are your guns really going to make a difference? I
Very
mean,
true.
back in the '90s, David Koresh and the Branch Davidian, they had all the guns on the fucking planet. What good did it do them? They all got blown to high hell. That wasn't even the U.S. military. That was the FBI.
Wow.
You know, and who's got more guns, the U.S. military, standing army, or the FBI? I mean, that's people are again that's NRA propaganda that's evolved over the past 30 some years that just instills fear and insecurity in people and propagates this scared psychological need to stockpile guns. But what good do they do? I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
sure, if you're on a farm, you need a rifle. If you want to have a revolver in your home for security, but at a certain point, you got guys who are stockpiling AK-47s because it's
Yes.
their American right.
Listen,
But
I I was telling Black Dev there, in my opinion, there is no reason for a common man walking around carrying an AK-47 or have ownership of an AK-47. I'm sorry, anybody who's listening who don't agree. That is ridiculous. You don't need that type of firearm, that type of firepower at all. Why? Why do you need that? Joe, would you agree with that, man? Or what's your take on that?
oh no, I would pretty much agree with that. What it does is it fills a psychological need of insecurity. I mean, if you've ever noticed, it's the people who scream the loudest about wanting to have guns and stockpiling guns. You ever notice they're the last people you want to actually own one?
Yes, that is very
Hmm.
true. That's a good
Here's
point,
something
man.
I do. Yeah, but there's something is people tend to, because you brought up the Second Amendment, people tend to forget the Second Amendment. What does the Second Amendment say? What is the wording of the Second Amendment?
I don't know
I
exactly.
had to look it up. Yeah, I had to look it up. But there's a part that people and I remember this part, but I looked it up because I wanted the exact wording.
Okay.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What's the part that people always forget to mention? A well-regulated
Militia,
militia.
right?
Now, how many gun owners? Yeah, how many gun owners do you know that are in a militia, let alone well trained in the proper use of a firearm?
That's what she was saying. Okay. Yeah, that's what she was
Yeah,
saying, and
I
that
mean,
was in her.
again, you look at the Swiss people; they are part of since they've
Yeah.
all been in military service. They're now militia, having gotten out of the regular army, and they're all well trained for well regulated purposes.
Right, right, which makes perfectly good sense.
But the NRA doesn't want you to hear that part because, again, they're concerned about. I mean, gun industry is in this country. They're
It,
rich.
dude, and that comes down to the reason why all the rest of the corruption, the reason why America, and not to jump subject, I'll get back to what we're talking about, but that's the reason why America has so much corruption is because corruption seems to sell. Everything's about money at the end of the day. No one cares that people are losing their lives like it's going out of style, as long as it's making money. It's insane. But you're right. A regulated militia. People need to be trained, or people um, need to be properly trained. Is what I'm basically saying before they are able to purchase firearms. It's insane, and that brings another topic also included with with the gun situation in America is the mental health issue. You got too many people with mental health issues that have access to firearms.
Again,
We
in the
Go ahead.
NRA's defense, they do support that sort of a background check. They say that, but when do they ever support legislation that would actually do that? but that's
Right. Um, I was telling Dev, I'm 32 years old. I've never purchased a firearm,
me neither.
and I have a family, and I'm doing just fine. So, I mean, what's the paranoia from? I mean,
Not
now granted, no, should is I'm totally okay with people having a firearm, um, to protect their home, um, if it needs, if they need to use it. But what's the paranoia? Where's the stockpiling? Why? For what, man? I mean, like kind of paraphrasing what you said, it's almost like they're trying to overcompensate, for something. But I don't know.
well. I mean, it's how do you sell? And you see this in selling clothes or selling DVDs or selling collectible action figures or whatever. How do you get someone to buy your product? You can through your commercials or whatever. You convince them not that they want it, but that they need it,
Right.
that they
Mm,
can't live without it.
mm.
I mean, how do you convince someone that they can't live without a gun? You tell them their life's in danger without it.
That's true.
And I mean, the NRA's been promoting that propaganda campaign for 30, 40 years now. You can read about the history of the NRA, and they weren't like that until late 70s, early 80s, around the Reagan era.
Hmm.
You know, it's money
And
by the
that
pound.
and that's enough time to uh teach a generation.
Yeah,
So at this point now, it's a generation now that grew up that way.
yeah, it's the norm.
So if you tell them otherwise, they couldn't see any other way. And it's a problem when it comes down to. I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like when it comes down to the urban community, it's a problem because um in urban homes we aren't, like I said, we aren't like hunting like in inner city homes where guns are a problem, and we think guns are a way of resolving problems nowadays. You see a lot of comments about, the young guys don't fight anymore, they don't resolve problems, they shoot each other or whatever. Is dangerous. And so that's also a problem. I know I do, own a gun, but when I purchased my first gun, it was the guy just asked me if I was a felon, and I said no, and he said okay, and this is at a gun show, and he said okay, well that's all I need to know, he took my money, and I got the gun.
That's right. That's how easy it is. Yeah.
So
And that's sad, man. That's sad and
I'll tell you a
horrible.
story. No, you finish and I'll tell you a story. I got a good one.
okay, yeah, go. I mean, I just wanted to bring up a point that as far as you know and then the issue with the mass shootings, I mean, just looking at like the statistics around the world compared to us, like we're like blowing the whole world away
Mm-hmm.
in mass shootings.
That is true because I read on BBC.com that there were 372 mass shootings in the U.S. in 2015. That's just 2015. I don't have the stats for 16, but in 2015 alone, 372 mass shootings, killing 475 people and wounding 1,870 people. And this is according to the mass shooting tracker, which catalogs such incidents. So 372 mass shootings, man. So and that's not even all the deaths from gun violence. That's just
If you add in
mass shootings.
Yeah.
if you add in murders, suicides, accidents,
Exactly.
it's over 20,000 people a year dead.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's a problem.
No, it's 20,000.
And I mean, to elaborate on what Black Dev said, we absolutely murder. people as far as statistics go. Our statistics are off the freaking charts compared to other countries. And we need to wake up and see this as a problem. It's insane.
Well, how do other countries view us, Joe?
Oh, they think we're crazy. Everywhere I've been, everywhere I've been, they say, "Oh, you're American. You have all the crazy guns in your country." Yeah, that's us. I mean,
Wow.
they just they just assume we're all. They kind of assume we're all Texas cowboys. They really do. It's whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
every group stereotypes every other group, but it's kind of
That's
Yeah.
funny to hear it sometimes.
Yeah.
But they do. Yeah, everywhere I go, I mean, look, the I know I'll get flack. Oh, Chinese communists. The Chinese are not that communist. I mean, they're still a little communist, sure, but I mean, there's not a single gun in the country. They're not having any. The government's not marching on their doors and you know whatever. They live just fine. I've
Yeah.
lived in a communist government. I've lived in a sheikdom. That's a kingdom where the leader of the country has absolute power over everything. I've
Wow.
lived in a
wow.
yeah, there's still
Where
about 15 kingdoms on Earth, mostly in the Muslim world.
where
Um,
where was this
but
at?
I mean, oh, Dubai, the
Dubai.
United Arab Emirates is what we would consider a kingdom.
Oh.
It's seven emirates, and each emir, each sheikh, um, has absolute authority over within his domain. He's the absolute monarch.
Wow.
He is the president, the legislature, and the judge all rolled into one.
Wow.
But in that case, the seven emir, the seven sheikhs, they all make a lot of decisions together for foreign policy,
Yeah.
but two of them are kind of in charge, and the other five are kind of smaller land, have smaller territories.
Yeah.
Um, Saudis like that, Kuwait's like that, Qatar is like that, Oman, a lot of them. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like, oh, if we don't have guns, we're gonna lose our freedom. I've been to plenty of countries where they don't have guns. They're just as free as us, more free in some ways, less free in other ways, to be fair. But it's, and as I said before, if the government decides that if the government wants to come for you, really I mean, you can have 100 guns. It's not going to make a difference. The government has tactical aircraft. They have tactical aircraft that drop weapons from the sky.
Yeah.
Right.
All the AK-40. What are you going to start doing? Putting an anti-aircraft gun in your backyard?
Right. If they
Yeah,
want you, they're gonna
the
get
story,
you.
yeah, I mean that's well, the story I was going to tell you because it does relate to this. I lived in Sweden. I have a lot of family in Stockholm, and I'm staying with my aunt, and she introduced me to two of her Swedish friends upstairs, and they lived in Tennessee for years and years. He worked for or General Electric, I forget, and he said, "Oh, you're American. I want to show you something." And he goes into the closet, and he comes back with an old Smith and Wesson revolver, 6 chambers, all that. And he says, when I came to America, the first thing I wanted to do was buy a gun. Surprise there,
Wow.
that's, and by the way, people, what's the number one reason people come to this country for tourism is Disneyland. But the number two reason, yeah, they want to fire guns. But
Wow, man.
Wow.
he brings out the revolver and he says, I was in Tennessee and I went to introduce myself to the sheriff before I bought a gun. Okay, well, that's responsible. Cool. And of course, the sheriff says, well, you just moved here. You're not an American citizen. You cannot buy a gun in my county. But if you drive 7 minutes across the county line, there's a little shop. They have different rules. They can sell you a gun there.
Wow.
That's it. I mean, and this was like the 70s. This was the 70s. But he said, so I drove the 10 minutes and I went into the shop and the man just sold me a gun right there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That was it. And that was it. You know. But yes, most countries around the world think we're a bunch of crazy gun-toting nut bars. That's not without some truth.
I'm about to say we kind of are.
I mean, there is some, and like I say, if you go back and look at the NRA, their rhetoric, the things they said in the 1930s, the 1940s, the 1950s, they were in favor of certain amount of gun control. You go back and read some of the former NRA presidents from
Mm.
the World War II decade before that and after that, and as I said, it really wasn't until the 70s when the NRA took on this change of direction, this fierce, promoting of you know all kinds of crazy weapons. Um, and you got to ask yourself, why did they do that? I mean,
That's a
Occam's
good
razor.
question.
What's the number one? What's the reason people do anything? Money.
Mm.
Money.
Really
Okay.
is.
It makes me think of Iron Man for some reason. I know that's random, but like you know what I'm saying, like how he's just like I feel like he has like maybe a head of conscience, maybe like in the first movie or something about you know making weapons that people were using in other countries. I think wasn't that sort of like the plot in that movie?
Yeah. He was trying to. I don't think he was selling guns, but he was selling some sort of military technology.
Yeah.
And he runs. You want to see a good movie about gun sales, and it may or may not be like Nicolas Cage's like only good movie. No, he's had two or three, but watch Lord of War. That's a really good movie about about the illegal international gun trafficking
Okay.
agent. I'll tell you another good story. You'll love this one. Pakistani guy was my driver in Dubai because I didn't have a car. It was just as cheap to pay a driver. These guys will work for nothing.
Okay.
And he, of course, as you guessed, first thing he asked me about was, oh, America firing guns, blah blah blah. And he says, oh, we have a gun in my country, or my tribe. We have lots of guns where I live. Well, where do you get them from? Well, they were Al Qaeda surplus. And I said to him, was, don't ever tell anyone that story. You don't want them to know that. Please don't ever, because I
Yeah.
don't want. Okay, so my Pakistani driver, when he was still in Pakistan, was buying guns from Al Qaeda surplus because that's how Al Qaeda makes money. They sell their leftover guns. But the rest of the story is he told me, well, where do you think Al Qaeda got them from? These were American made weapons, American and Russian.
It makes sense.
I mean, that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's the military industrial complex. It's a huge industry. If the NRA wants a piece of the domestic sales, but yeah, he said, oh, we got him from Al Qaeda. And I said, don't repeat that. And he said, well, Al Qaeda got him from America and Russia.
That's wild, man.
If
We love our
they get
guns.
if they get them from America, they're getting funneled through Saudi or one of those Gulf, because we sell tons of weapons to Saudi, and some of that's going to spill off into some of those other groups. It might go from
Right.
America to Saudi to some legitimate paramilitary group, and then to Al Qaeda. It might go through four or five hands, change hands like four or five, six times before it gets to Al Qaeda. But it started off as an American product at some point. No, I don't think. No, the American government does not directly sell weapons to Al Qaeda. Of course not.
Yeah.
Right, of course, right. Now I was saying, also, I would like to see where just any, not just anybody shouldn't be able to buy a handgun. Now, for instance, if you're a hunter and you're out hunting and you need to purchase a gun, yeah, you need to show proof that you're a hunter so you can get a gun. Because you need the hunting rifle in order to hunt. It's your tool. Um, but if you're going in to buy a handgun, there needs to be it should be difficult. And I'm sorry, whoever doesn't agree, but it needs to be very difficult. We need to quit emphasizing on trying to protect ourselves from all these other countries, and we need to focus more so protecting ourselves from each other, and not in a way of using guns, but in a way of preventing things from happening with guns. We need to educate. We need to be more educated. They need to really push this. Uh, and I was saying earlier, I think another reason why we're so gun crazy in America, because we see this stuff on media. We see movies, we see TV shows, we see it blasted all over the news. You got your westerns. Everybody wanted to be cowboys. You want to get guns. You see all these cop movies where I mean, it's polluting our minds to feel like this is what's cool. This is what we need. Even in the urban demographic. I mean, you got your your gangster, your hood
Yeah,
gangster movies where they glorify having guns.
just the music in general.
The music glorifies guns. I mean, so I think a lot of times still it's America doesn't do enough to be anti. Like we promote it too much. We make it look cool. They cannot. It's illegal for um tobacco companies to run cigarette ads on television, but we can. I know we don't run gun ads on television, but why not make it as important? I mean, we emphasize so much on the wrong stuff. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. What tell me, Joe, you've been to Japan, right?
Yeah, twice.
So Japan, like, tell me what's the atmosphere there, like crime rate and all that compared to America and with the guns and stuff like that.
Well, guns are non-existent in Japan, and
Mm,
crime is non-existent in Japan.
wow.
Uh, it, a couple of, now twice now in the past, whatever, 20 years, there'll be some Japanese guy who runs around, in a busy square and starts stabbing people with plastic knives or whatever. And you probably, ends up with like one or two fatalities and like 20 injured. They'll plow a truck into something. Um, but overall, the crime statistics in Japan are, I think, their biggest crime statistic is suicide, probably.
Wow.
Suicidal. Sure. Yeah, but no, one night, and this was my first trip in 2001. I was just a kid. My God, I was like 20, 21, and me and my friend, I had a buddy, who was living over there. He's from Roanoke. He's back here now. I actually brought back a Japanese wife, but he we were walking through. Yeah, no, they're really cool. They're cool, but we were walking through Central. Uh, what was it? Not Shibuya Park. Not was it Yoyogi Park or whatever is the Japanese equivalent, the Tokyo equivalent of Central Park.
Okay.
We're walking through there in the middle of the night. Couldn't have a care in the world. You imagine doing that in Manhattan? Or I when I was living in
Mm,
Los Angeles, I lived 4 blocks from MacArthur Park, which is like the rock capital of LA by night. And we wouldn't go near MacArthur Park that time of night. Tokyo, no problem. You know, we have the homeless people there though. They never dream of asking you for a handout of any sort. But the homeless people, they'll come up to you friendly as can be, just to chat with you, just to say hi. Welcome to Japan, foreigner. But it's yeah. There's
they don't ask for handouts.
no. I don't even know if they would take it if you offered because I didn't. But no. The homeless people, Asian culture is a little bit different though. They're a lot more are much more concerned with like shame and guilt than we are like in this country. We're concerned with like ego and
Mm-hmm.
Right.
pride and status symbols that show wealth. In Japanese culture, yes, they're concerned with like wealth as a status symbol, but on a higher level, if you look at the different things they value and don't value, they value shame and guilt. Like, yeah, we look at shame and we just like throw it off and say, whatever, I'll do whatever I want to do. Japanese people, if like they're publicly shamed, Christ, they'll probably go hang themselves or something, go over that
Right.
suicide forest in Hokkaido. Yeah, but no, it's Japan's incredibly safe. China is incredibly safe.
Wow.
Um, can't like Cambodia and Thailand, they're a little dicey, but I still would, they're still I wouldn't like if you're gonna walk down like a bad street in the middle of the night in Bangkok or Phnom Penh, I still wouldn't worry about it as much because, well, okay, well, frankly, that's where the conversation goes to. Frankly, they don't have guns.
So do you think that makes a difference here? You think our crime rate you think it's harder to do crime without a gun? You know, it's harder to rob somebody if you
No,
got
you
to
could.
do more work without a gun.
No, when I got mugged and robbed in downtown Los Angeles, all the guy had was a knife.
Okay.
So that's not the case. But on a larger scale, my anecdotal example notwithstanding, on a larger scale, it's more difficult to be a successful criminal without a gun. Sure, you could still do it, you do all right, but yeah, I mean, you're going to get a lot further in crime with a gun.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the pro gun people, they'll use that as an example of, well, the bad guys have guns, so we got to have guns too. Well, then what are you going to do? Just carry the gun around with you everywhere you go, 24/7?
Right. Right.
Christ, at a certain, I mean, at a certain point, you got to figure something out. I mean, you want to do that, do that. But damn,
Yeah, man. Like I said, man, I fully understand. I mean, I get it, having some type of firearm. Uh but the obsessiveness of it, um
yeah, yeah,
it's just too much. I mean, you don't need 30 guns. I know a guy I used to work with. He like, man, I'm telling you, something never had where to go down. Man, I got it all. I'm ready. I'm like, dude, really? You
the
can't
last
shoot them
person
all
you
at the
want
same time?
yeah, the last person you actually want to have a gun in the first place.
Yeah, man. So I'm like, wow, dude. Like, why? Like, what? I don't know. It's a
What's
Yeah.
mindset. It's a mind state, man. It's a mind
what's
state.
what's supposed to go down though? Like what's gonna go down?
So they believe that any day now, the government's either going to collapse and there's going to be chaos on the streets, or the government is engineering some huge nationwide conspiracy. They're just going to, well, and they can't even tell you the whole story.
Yeah.
They're going to invade our homes and do something bad to us, but nobody really specifically knows what that bad thing. I mean, what are they going to do? Take a larger chunk of our taxes?
Right.
L- Let's not for, let's
But
not
no,
forget
there
the
are.
zombie apocalypse. We can't leave that out.
Oh, there's that. Yeah, there's that. There are actually people who believe that. That's part of the government engineering.
Yeah.
The CDC probably has those chemicals right now down in Atlanta, where the CDC is. They're just waiting to unleash that zombie chemical on the country.
I think they did
The
already.
government's
It's
going to order
called
it.
It's called a smartphone.
no, it's called I ain't gonna say I was gonna say all these rappers in Atlanta. A little Uzi Vert and all them.
He gonna throw a
What's
diss at the he gonna he gonna throw a diss at the Atlanta
no, I'm
guys.
just playing. But
Yeah, man. But yeah, they it's a mind state. It's a
Yeah,
mind state, and it's what people have it's passed down through generations. It's television, it's music, it's
yeah.
media. It's ridiculous. That's what it is.
man,
Um,
we
go
should
40,
we should have a pro gun person on here because they ain't get no love tonight.
yeah. No, and the thing is, like I say, I'm not totally anti-gun. I
Yeah.
mean,
neither am I.
The Second Amendment does exist for a reason. I mean, yeah, there is a certain need to have, firearms. Um, but yeah, at the same time, it really has crossed a line in this country in the past 3 or 4 decades. I mean, look, and this is something we could talk as long as you guys want, but it's something I wanted to bring up at some point, maybe
Okay.
close with, maybe not. Sandy Hook happened.
Yeah.
All those 6-year-old children got gunned
Yeah,
down,
man.
and we can't even have a conversation about it in this country. The gun lobby, the NRA, just immediately said, "Nope, I'm sorry, all those children died, but nothing's going to change."
Yes,
That
Sandy Hook,
And that was
man.
and that's exactly what happened. I mean, and so the thing is, you can't, as much as the gun here's the thing, as much as the gun people want to moan about guys like me, they won. They get to have all the guns they want, and all I can do is remind them that Sandy Hook happened, and then they'll get mad and scream at me and brandish their guns at me. You know, um,
Ri-
no, I mean, they won. The gun people love to scream and bitch and holler, but they get all the guns they want, and all I get to do is sit there and watch a bunch of 6-year-old kids in Connecticut get
that's
killed.
bad.
And the thing about it, man, like I just don't understand why do they get so bent out of shape? Like, soon as you
40
talk
years,
about the guns, they get bent out of shape. It's ridiculous. Like,
And
40
what
years of fear culture.
it's bad because what if that's your kid? That would have been your kid at that school. And what would have your gun have done to help that situation?
I mean, nothing after the
Nothing.
fact.
Exactly nothing. So what do you like your friend or the person you know? You say he's prepared if it's going down, so it went down. Your kids there. What is your 30 guns? What did they do
Right.
to help that situation?
Mm.
Right, man.
The argument was that they school teachers should be able to have guns in their desks. That was the argument there. Yeah,
And it's just.
let's take all the time you need with that one.
So, were you a teacher? What do you think?
As a teacher, if they told me that, well, I suppose if they wanted me to take, a gun safety, a gun training course, I would do that. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't want to own a gun or handle a gun, but if my work required me to take a course in how to properly handle a gun, how to appreciate its, how to safely, discharge it and store it, but I certainly wouldn't want to keep a gun in my desk in a classroom full of 30 kids. You never know when
Yeah,
one of them to pick the damn lock.
that's
Right.
true.
I would no, there's no. I mean, you could try and rationalize, well, maybe if you kept the guns in a locker in the principal's office or you kept them in a safe or this or that or whatever. But you know what? You've got security guards on the school campuses now. They've got guns.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, I'm not saying take away guns. I'm saying let's be responsible, and let's be more aware of who we allow to purchase the guns and the type of guns we are allowing people to purchase. That's all I'm saying. I feel
Yeah.
like that's what we need to do. I mean, so I'm not trying to take the guns away, but we do need everything needs to be done in moderation.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
NRA agrees with that in word, but not in deed.
Mm.
Right. So they need to actually talk. They need to walk the walk instead of talking the talk, man. You
Well,
know.
yeah, but that cuts into somebody's bottom line.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, Joe, we really, really, really appreciate you being on, man. I mean, I know things won't change, but we continue to have these type of conversations where people are listening. There's one step to closer to opening up other people's minds into seeing what needs to happen. But man, we definitely appreciate you being on and just let everybody know where they could check you out as far as your travels.
Yeah. If you're and some people might know about the music and gaming festival. I'd love that if somebody listening to this had already heard about it because that's great. It's magfest magfest.org, and the show's in January in DC every year. And for all the traveling I've done the past 3 years, like 45 countries, I have a Facebook page. It's called Trails of Joe. Just TRAILS of Joe, JOE. And you can like and follow my page, and I try to upload pictures of places I've been as often as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And everybody, of course, look us up on our official website, parameterscast.com. Also, look us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and as well as Snapchat Team Parameters on Snapchat. Um, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. And you are podcasting with the best.
Podcasting with the best. Peace.
Peace and love.
Thanks for having me.